Hello and welcome to another conversation about Fire Kasina here on our Meditative Dev channel. I am Teodora and I'm here with Ed. And the two of us recently attended a 3-week Fire Kasina retreat in Florida. It was a standard high dose Fire Kasina retreat with about 10 participants. And yeah, so since we really like Fire Kasina and we think that it's a practice worth sharing about, especially because it's quite complex and it can lead to really intense effects, which can be wonderful, but it can also lead to some challenging effects and outcomes. And it requires a lot of skill and knowledge to kind of reap the benefits and optimize for the practice. So yeah, we think that we can add value to the meditation community by talking about Fire Casino. And yeah, so today Ed and I are going to kind of interview each other and talk about this practice. Would you like to say a few words, Ed, for the introduction?
Yeah, thanks for giving such a comprehensive intro. Yeah, it's great to be here and discussing our recent experiences. But yeah, I think maybe we can kick off with a few personal details, so you know who hearing. Yeah, so my name is Ed. I live in central Portugal in a relatively off-grid location, hence the crackling wood you can hear burning in the background. It's kind of the winter, so forgive that noise. I was foolishly stoked the fire just before hitting record, so that is what it is. Yeah, I've been practicing meditation for a decade now. I kind of originally discovered it through the party scene when I was living in England. Did a Buddhist retreat, and it was immediately just kind of felt, oh my God, there's really something here. I just have to keep exploring this. And here I am still exploring 10 years later. Yeah, there was a few of my beginner retreats were in Buddhist community in England, and did a number of Goenka Vipassana retreats. And then since moving to central Portugal now, mostly do retreats they were organized together as friends. So with friends through the meditative.dev community, whose channel you found. And then, yeah, mostly Rob Burbea retreats, because those are available for free online as an amazing resource. And then, yeah, then in terms of just general background, geophysicist by training, so I'm kind of a scientist, recently working in coding, and I'm now between jobs, which gives me enough time to actually do a 3-week Fire Casino retreat. Like, who has time to do that, right?
And then another 2-week Fire or almost 3-week Fire Casino retreat in a couple of weeks.
That's true. Yeah, the previous one went so well that I was just like, oh my God, there's another one coming up. How could I not go? So yeah, the full timeline, like we might be discussing, the kind of the experiences I might include in today's conversation. 3-week Fire Casino retreat from 1 year ago. So that's winter 2024, 2025. Then we did the recent research retreat that Teodora mentioned in October 2025. I then stayed in a Buddhist monastery afterwards to kind of extend the whole experience. I was still doing a bit of Fire Casino for that time. That was another 2 weeks, and then got really excited about just keeping on this crazy train and going to New Zealand. So that'll be coming up in December 2025.
Yeah, that's really wonderful.
There's loads about me. What about you? Who are you?
Yeah, so I think people who listen to this channel, they probably have heard my voice often, but I actually never spoke so much about myself. Yeah, so I'm also a researcher. I work in academia, and I do research in multimodal language analysis, so kind of modeling speech and facial expressions and gestures, and yeah, kind of creating tools for automatic recognition of those or synthesizing. And yeah, as a meditator, so I started meditating in 2020, and actually my first meditation teacher was Sean Prest from this community, so I was one of the first members of the meditative dev. I always had even before that, I always had a curiosity for spirituality and meditation. And I also come from a rather spiritual family. But then as I crossed into the scientific career, I decided to rationalize and intellectualize all of my spiritual assumptions and become a materialist until my first meditation retreat, which completely shattered my worldview. And I mean, before that, I studied meditation before that, but it didn't have such an ontological impact on me as that first meditation retreat. And there I entered very quickly and very easily very deep altered states, which opened up a world of exploration for me. So in the last few years since then, I've been dedicating all of my free time and some of my professional time to the exploration of meditation and the surrounding fields, including powers, yoga, energy work. Yeah. So I read anything that seemed remotely related and interesting in the last 5 years. Yeah. And I've been guiding the meditative dev live sessions for the last 3 years, I believe. And yeah, the last Fire Casino retreat was my fourth long Fire Casino retreat, and I've done a couple of shorter ones. So I've joined the retreat that Ed just mentioned in Germany last year for 5 or 6 days. And I've done another shorter mixed retreat that also include some Fire Casino. And I as well will join the upcoming Fire Casino retreat with Ed. So you'll probably see another one of these interviews in a couple of months.
Yeah, if all goes well, I hope we'll do this again.
Yeah. Well, maybe even if it doesn't go well, maybe we'll have something to warn about.
That's very true. If it goes horribly, we should definitely also do a lecture video.
Yeah. All right. So, do you want to maybe start by saying something about how the retreat progresses, the timeline of the retreat, how kind of the main core effects develop over the course of the retreat? How about starting with that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Because generally speaking, Kasina does seem to go through a particular trajectory that, although varies between different people, does have some commonalities to be expected. So usually the prime sequence would be looking at the candle flame with open eyes, which maybe takes a minute or two till it starts to get a bit of an after image, kind of greenish purple. Close your eyes, focus on the after image. And then the after image will progress into being a kind of vivid, kind of scintillating, vibratory kind of dot. It's the kind of vivid color, just like a spot in the middle of the vision. And then usually it'll take a number of days, maybe a week, maybe more than a week, maybe 3 weeks of just focusing on the dot. And then when you get distracted, just repeating the sequence that I just described. So that's kind of the prime mover of the practice, is just doing the sequence again and again and again. But I think on my first retreat, this was maybe 5 years ago, the first Fire Casino retreat, my mistake was that I didn't really know how to get past this stage. And so I was just stuck in that loop. And I didn't really have any experienced practitioners around just to give me that nudge or just to point out the little corner that I was stuck in, and didn't really progress much further. Like it was, it was still amazing. Powerful energy still happened. Insight still happened, but yeah, I did not progress to the later stages. Maybe we could talk about that later. But so the next stage would be progressing from focusing on this central dot right in the middle of the vision to then being with the background. So we'd find attention's widening slightly from the dot, a feeling of maybe instead of burning your attention straight into this dot, then the dot becomes a bit more vibrant as the attention expands. And then as it expands further, you'll just be with the whole background field and just trying to feel this whole background at once. And this stage is usually called the murk because the background, as you may know from having closed eyes, isn't usually that interesting under normal conditions. It's just usually kind of staticky, heavy, purplish, reddish, dark, static. But yeah, this is also another place where I get stuck, because the next bit, though, maybe I'll just hand over to Teodora to describe, because the next bit is then like cultivating like color and shape control within this kind of murky field. And this murky field can also be associated with negative emotional affect. So there's usually, that's the other connotation of the murky name, is that it's like you could be lost in the dark forest for some time, and the emotional quality of the experience. But do you have anything to add on that for a moment?
Yeah, no, I think that's very well laid out. So yeah, I think the first parts of pre-Merc, early days of the retreat, can also be marked by very strong and noticeable effects. Very often, I think people report having what is called previews. So sometimes on day one, you will have very vivid visual effects or flashes of extremely realistic imagery kind of being transported to another reality, strong, energetic experiences potentially. Or I had one of my strongest, absolutely strongest no self experiences on the first evening of one of my fire casino retreats. And then that will fade and it will drift into the murk. And yeah, as you said, murk can be also marked by changes in mood. So the meditator can be irritated or sleepy. Yeah, kind of excessive sleepiness in certain stages of the murk is quite noticeable, but also reactiveness, irritability, frustration. Yeah, kind of, especially as I think also even besides the inherent effect that the territory brings, I think there's also this frustration due to expectations. I think that's one of the more difficult aspects of the Merc, because it can last for a few days and you're expecting all these amazing experiences that you've heard people describing, but then they're not coming, and it feels like you don't know how to meditate and how you're doing everything wrong, and no matter what you try, nothing works. And yeah, I think that can be quite tiring and frustrating.
Yeah, it does remind me of the first retreat that I did, where I didn't know how to progress past this stage, and then it was just this emotional kind of grindy, just feeling reactive and irritable, and then just it kind of leads to, it's kind of fertile ground for interpersonal struggle with other people in retreat as well. If multiple people are all in this state at the same time, and everyone's grouchy, then it can go wrong. That's one of the, making sure you have people on the retreat who have done similar things before you can use. A pretty wise idea.
Yeah, I can imagine that. But yeah, my experience has also been that something that should not be neglected is that during the Merc, you're still developing concentration. So if you're, for example, I don't know, the Merc can start anywhere between day 1 and day 4 or 5, when you can like drop in. And it should not be neglected that you're still developing strong concentration during that time. And one of the ways of getting through the Merc is practicing. So just like hours of practice will likely get you through the Merc. But so for me, this territory is extremely fruitful for work and insight related to like personal psychological conditioning and like psychological work. And like one of the most important experiences for me in the last retreat happened during the Merc. And within 2 days, I think it was day 6 and 7 or something like that, or day 5 and day 6, something like that, I had the experience of having done 20 therapy sessions or something like that. I mean, I just did so much psychological work that, it was really hard to expect that you could ever do something like that in just daily life. I mean, it would really be difficult to schedule a therapist to work with you for the whole day, every day, and still, like, you would get tired. And on retreat, this took in total maybe 2 or 3 hours of just focused work, focusing on the physical sensations, focusing on the emotions there, allowing the stories to emerge, allowing the associations to emerge, and just witnessing, observing, being compassionate towards them. So, yeah, I would argue that Merc is not only a territory that you need to push through, it also gives an opportunity to practice meditation with extremely low feedback. Because, yeah, high feedback meditation, for example, in the second jhana is relatively easy to do. Because no matter what you do, you achieve an effect. So you have like an immediate confirmation and it feels pleasant. But in the Merc or like in the third jhana, maybe you don't get so much feedback. Or yeah, let's just talk about the Merc to not make too many comparisons. But yeah, you don't get so much feedback. Quite the contrary. But the perception is still there and it's actually quite refined. It's just very subtle. It's so subtle that you have a feeling like nothing is happening. So I think that it can also bring a skill in meditation to be able to be with that and to practice within that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the healthy way of approaching it. It's like it's had a lesson to teach, and it has a way of approaching it that you have to learn in order to move past it. It's like a whole other puzzle, essentially. It's not the puzzle of strong focus or the puzzle of I don't know, other meditative techniques. It's like it has its own particular vibe. Like I don't know, just I'm trying to just the metaphor of like a complex puzzle comes to mind. But the just for me, I also found it fertile ground for insight work, like personal development type stuff. Isn't the right words? Because I would usually find myself in the Merc for a long period of time, feeling into like kind of blockages in that energetic system. It was almost like I wanted to really be with the visuals, but every time I tried to do that, there would be all of this stuff that would get in the way, and I would just be like, "Oh, I'm just trying to look at the visuals now," but then it's just all of this these in that like jagged corners in the energy body, just kind of blocking things, or it just. So it was kind of an invitation, or like kind of almost forced to deal with those things before I can move on to the next stages. So I would usually, work with the dot until concentration was strong, move out a wide field, and at the same time as vision getting wide, then attention in the body would also get wide. So it's kind of spacing out internally as well as to try and include the vision and the body, and feeling this kind of the energetic vibration of this field. It was almost like an harmonizing of the energy body almost, rather than like trying to push through something. It's just like just trying to feel into this whole vibe almost, and letting it percolate through all the tension. Like when working with the Merc felt the best, it was as if I wasn't focusing on it. It was just like bathing in it almost. So I'll probably something I would say.
And what did you say about what approaches worked for you to where you had the impression that was helping you get through the Merc faster?
Well, I guess the idea of this harmonization process, like finding blockages that are preventing me from being with the visuals, and letting if the kind of energetic vibration of the visuals themselves kind of feed back into the visual, into the felt sensation. So it's like this visual tactile feedback loop that definitely felt important at times. And then, much more simple to explain way. Another thing that was very helpful was we just had like a 3-word cue of wide, back, and down. That was also very important for this stage, which instead of getting like narrowly focused on tiny details in the field, like, oh, there's a squiggle there. Oh, I really want to see a square over here or whatever, if you're intending to do like shape and draw. But then to actually just include everything, to let the center of attention drop really far down into the body, like widen out, inclusive. And that's kind of the gateway to the next stage, which we haven't mentioned anymore. Equanimity, the next stage. And so in order to bridge the gap between the Merc and equanimity, there's this widening out has to happen, because just like equanimity is a wide open, inclusive space. So we need to get there somehow, and can't really do that by focusing narrowly.
Yeah, and I remember that Daniel had this demonstration with you, which stuck in everybody's memory, where he sat or kneel down behind your chair and told you that that's where you should place your attention. And I remember also
Yeah.
that it really helped me as well. But I remember that you referred to that later.
No, that was really fun because we were all like, yeah, just describing where to put your awareness. It's like, oh, go put it down there, and then Daniel goes back down. It's like down here, and then so that kind of left me with this memory, like just really, visceral memory of just like the feeling of a sound coming from
Yeah.
the mission. So I'm like, oh, where do I remember that location being, man? And just go and do it. So that was really effective. Some
Yeah.
non-conventional teaching styles is definitely a bonus.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. Like he often would do this kind of pantomime or some kind of enactment type instructions. And I think that was much easier for me to mirror, or like it provided more layers for understanding what he actually means. I really appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah, like a multimodal communication. We've got like visual, auditory. You've got to like mix everything in.
Yeah, I have to say another kind of facilitating factor for the whole retreat, of course, but also for the Merc was to share with others, to just like see the full table of people where everybody says, I forgot how to meditate. Nothing works. I felt so irritated today.
Like, oh yeah, I felt like that 3 days ago, and now I feel fine. They're like, oh okay,
Yeah.
past it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, because
I think
we did that twice a day with each meal. So we would do our own thing for breakfast. At lunchtime, we would do a round of the whole table where people would share at least one thing, even if that thing was just this I'm fine and don't want to talk about it. We're going to say something at each meal, and we do that twice. And
Mhm.
which, from a traditional silent meditation point of view is crazy. Like what silent meditation, like you're just not even allowed to do anything like that. So the fact that we were made it the rule that we had to shows how important it was. And I was a bit apprehensive about two. I thought one might be enough, but on reflection, the technique is so powerful that just the benefits gained from sharing strategies and inspiration and being able to encourage each other. Being able to receive like direct pointings from each other and things. Yeah, so much worth it than the maybe marginal reduction in depth of concentration or something.
Yeah, exactly. And especially since you have such good meditators at the table. I mean, this retreat was really wonderful in that respect, that it just brought together a lot of really good, really talented practitioners. And it was also in some ways humbling or reassuring to hear that even these people with so much experience can still have those same impressions that they suck at meditation, or that it's really not working out for them. I remember there was also this one moment when Daniel said, when I shared that I forgot how to meditate, and then Daniel says, well, I also forgot how to meditate, and I'm supposed to like answer some questions here or something like that. He's the most
It's like
senior person.
it was something like I'm organizing the retreat. How do you think I feel?
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
That's definitely an important vibe to cultivate. Is just everyone being at the same level around the table. Like Daniel wasn't the teacher; he was just giving a little advice when he felt inspired to, and asking questions if we had them. We didn't have a compulsory Dharma talk or anything.
Yeah.
We're all just on the journey together, which I do feel is super important. Like I think that's really important to try and cultivate that wherever possible.
Yeah, I mean, it really made everybody stand out in their own way and kind of shine with their talents and show up with their style of meditation and their style of giving feedback. I really appreciated that. I really value those more equalized settings for practice than like strictly centralized or hierarchical environments. Although I have tremendous respect for both people who are more and who are less experienced, but I have tremendous respect for teachers, of course. But I really appreciated this equal sharing space, equal practicing space.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like both approaches have the place. Like was really, mostly in the Buddhist monasteries recently. I was really appreciative of this strict disciplinary form they kind of have. It's like, I mean, that's the kind of thing you need to do if you want your tradition to last like 2000 years, maybe, is to, you have like a rigid system that works really well. And then you just follow the formula and everyone does the same thing. And it's like, and it seems to be working really well for them. So I'm like, yeah, full respect to that strategy. But then, sometimes that's just not appropriate. Like on our retreat, we managed to get this beautiful feeling of sangha and connection, all of these friendships in a relatively short amount of time, which, yeah, you're usually not even allowed to do on an insight retreat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I would just to kind of wrap up the retreat, the Merc part, and maybe to segue then into a new topic. I would also add that so for to kind of go through the Merc, I think having compassion for yourself and having this meta perspective that it has to happen on a fire casino retreat. It's a total like drag, and everybody goes through it. And just having that meta perspective helps. Doing high dose, long hours, of course, within safe boundaries, monitoring yourself, being kind towards yourself, not overstimulating yourself, but kind of doing long hours, just like sticking to your regular schedule really helps. If you would reduce the hours, it would likely take more time to get through the retreat or to get through the Merc. I think there are also some group effects. Like I noticed that in this retreat, we went out of the Merc roughly at the same time, even though on previous retreats, I went out of the Merc much faster, like maybe even 4 days sooner. And I know that on this retreat, I had one pop out of the retreat on day 4 or 5, which is pretty early. But then I just kind of sunk back into the retreat. So this is also something that's, I think, quite typical for a fire casino retreat, that there are these kind of shared group dynamics. And another thing that works for me, and maybe this can then lead into another topic, is to do more intense energy practice and breathwork practice. And this is something that we did pretty substantially. I think we did it daily actually on this retreat. So a group within the retreat, we were doing some form of Kundalini yoga with energy work and breath work that later developed into a more interdisciplinary practice. But yeah, I find that really helps to give a bit of a boost in that low energy, low mood phase of the retreat. Of course, in any other part of the retreat, but since we were talking about the Merc, I find that giving it that kind of like flush of energy can really help.
Nice. I wanted to add that each fire casino retreat that I've done, I've got through the Merc quicker as well. So I think this is something that might be like a confusing slog, like a slog as in like difficult task, the difficult, boring task to define slog. But then on the subsequent retreats, it did get easier and it made more sense. Like the first one was a disaster. The second one took, I haven't looked up the day, exactly what date I got through it, but I probably could check. But then on the last one, I was just looking it up and I got through I got like the strong dark night phenomena that kind of indicated that I probably passed through it on day 6, I think, which was would expect, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's reasonable to say that it's kind of a skill. So don't worry, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I had like on my second retreat, because I realized that it was a skill to get into the Merc and that it's a skill to get out of the Merc. So basically, the sooner you get in, the sooner you'll get the chance to get out. And you can also nudge yourself really hard, or like you can nudge yourself strongly to get into the Merc. For example, without kind of resisting the pull of sleepiness, or just like even intending for the Merc to hit as soon as possible might actually do it. And on some of my previous retreats, I was out of the murk like after day 5 or so, like you. And I think on the retreat in Thailand, I was out of the murk after like maybe 2 days. Then I had like zigzagging kind of dips in and out, like mornings murky, for example, afternoons not murky, mornings murky, afternoons not murky. But it was not that difficult anymore. It just felt like the peak of the retreat afterwards.
So I guess we opened with an energy thread, but then also we still have a long trajectory of like the retreat arc. So maybe equity.
Right. So I'm thinking also that kind of we have the beginning of the retreat, then we had the murk. So typically people exit the murk like anywhere between day 5 and 10, probably. Like on this retreat, it was rather around day 10 that you could notice a shift in the conversations around the table. That you could notice that from what people were sharing, how they were feeling, that they were definitely no longer in the murky territory and they are like at the peak of the retreat. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
I didn't have any thoughts going to my right.
Yeah, so I remember, I think it was around day 10, that most people started sharing about some altered states or some really kind of interesting visual effects or some deeper insights into the 3 characteristics or kind of aspects of how they perceive themselves or reality, that kind of these stories that you kind of expect or experiences that you expect in the retreat really increased in frequency and in depth and in impactfulness beyond that period. And typically sitting would become easier, so people could sit long hours. Then I remember people were sitting 3 hours in a row, 4 hours in a row. I don't know if anybody sat more than that, but at that point it really becomes effortless. I think it's also personal style of whether somebody ever sits 3 hours, but yeah, it's way more likely to happen after
Yeah,
the
having a
work.
comfy chair really helped the 3-4 hour sets as well.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, and then to add some phenomenology. So so when things get easier, when things get more relaxed, then it's like the actual experience. I was like in this stage would much more be working with this kind of open, flowy kind of thing. Like rather than being caught on any particular energetic knots, it would be more like feeling this kind of open space, kind of flux, like just feeling the openness or closedness of this space. And then also likely to drift into like high equanimity, I guess, is where it's so okay with everything that I don't even remember a lot of it. It's just this super like, and meditation is just doing itself. I'm just sort of, even my mind wandering's happening. I don't even notice it. Like really kind of, really spacey, really kind of out there. And then it's in this region where this kind of spacey, relaxed region that I would have, at least I would have a lot more of like the detail. Details like mind's eye type images like popping up. Whereas in the murk, you might be working with the second screen, which might be like pixelated clouds. You might be making pictures or shapes, whatever. But this would be like spacing out into this dreamy, relaxed. Then just suddenly there's an image of like someone offering me a plate of cupcake. And then I'm like, oh, okay, but oh wait, this isn't real. And then they disappear. So then like that was one of them that comes, but
Yeah.
and then as that would deepen, so maybe in the middle of the retreat, it would be just like an image would pop up, like maybe from my walk in the forest, I would just suddenly have like a brief vision of trees or like a feeling like the clouds and the sun or something, like flying over a landscape, which it sounds really grand, but as it actually happens, it has like maybe the vividness of like a watercolor kind of abstract. It's like kind of brief. And I found that because I was so relaxed and spaced out that it wasn't even super impactful because I'm not like grabbing onto this amazing thing. It's just like a fleeting, just flies by, and then I come back around and well, what was that? It's like it's just because you kind of expect all these things to be just this really mind-blowingly grand, epic, and I'm just like, it sounds like that, but actually, just to have that level of equanimity just really turns down the grandness.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's another probably misconception or yeah, expectation that people would have that if they are experiencing these profoundly different states of being, that they must feel high or that they must feel strongly altered. But when you reach that state, you feel perfectly normal, or most of the time, you just feel perfectly normal, just like any other average state or moment in your life. Like for me, there were periods, like blocks of maybe a couple of hours, when I would feel different, when I would feel that my perception and my, kind of feeling of being in space is somehow different. And I remember this one moment when the pattern recognition was quite high, when I was just like walking outside looking at the fence and I just could see shape in the leaves without trying to see shapes. And I remember thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna start seeing gnomes. This is the moment. But then just an hour later, I still had very strong effects, but I was feeling perfectly normal. There was nothing, no distortions. Like, I think in some ways, the experience is quite comparable to psychedelics, but you're not distorted. You don't feel high. It just feels normal. And I think it's because you take so much time to get into the state. And I would also just like link back again to the Merc. My theory is that the Merc is necessary to get to the later stages. I think, in my view, the Merc is some kind of an overclocking of a neurocognitive system. There are also these like deep the very deep sleepiness or even like drifting into sleep. And I think that these drifts into sleep, which is what should actually be allowed. So you should actually allow yourself to sleep, and this is necessary to get through to the other side. So yeah, you go through this period of sleepiness and maybe dreams on the cushion, basically. But then once when you're out to the other side, your perception, your interaction with reality is changed. And I think that dip is necessary. I think that I would also really be curious to know what actually happens neurophysiologically that later leads to the effects. But yeah, so when you are at the peak, typically you feel normal, quite lucid, but normal.
Yeah, for sure. I would find that you reminded me of they were talking about this kind of dreaming on the cushion kind of thing. Like this was kind of where my kind of visionary capacities reached by the end, was in going through this kind of spacey, relaxed, kind of dreamy, mind wandery place. Instead of just having like a vivid image pop up, I would have a vivid image, and then maybe it would feel like my limbs were extending into it. So it's this half realm experience where I'm like, oh, am I in the scene or am I in the meditation room? Like there were a few of those. And then there was some, it was just kind of like spacing out, phasing out, and then just waking up in this entire new place, like quite a lot like a dream. But I didn't fall asleep. I was meditating, and then I just find myself in this other place and have no idea. Like one of them, I just I had no idea even why I was there, and I was like making up stories in the situation, like, oh, I'm here because of this reason, or it's just, which is just kind of how a dream works. And then eventually the scene would collapse, phase away, and then there's just like a weird moment of like phasing back into the meditation room or my bed or whatever. And then just for a few moments having absolutely no idea who I was, no idea where I was, and I'm just like remembering the dream that was now gone, and now I'm just like, and then like, oh, yeah, that's who I am. I'm in this place. Okay, right. So which doesn't usually happen when I wake up from a dream, which is why I think that's kind of a key difference for me of like why this isn't just like a regular dream and why it's kind of a bit more interesting is because it's like accessing this visionary dream-like space, but via an awake place.
Mm-hmm.
It's my theory that I think that maybe some of this would be a lot more insightful if I could go to that place with full lucidity, because obviously I'm not lucid, because when I'm in this dream, when I'm in this like, dream-like experience, I'm not fully aware that that's what's happened. But if I could like keep awareness all the way through, I think it would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. But I think that was also something that was quite common in this retreat. There were many people who had very vivid experiences of travel or being in completely different situations with full sensory resolution. Like I remember I had one that was quite funny. I mean, many of them for me were kind of pointless. Like they're just something else than where you actually are, but not necessarily insightful or profound or anything like that. And for me, there would often be this process of ending up in a different experience, like in a different situation, completely immersed. Everything feels like reality. And then you end up seeing a clue which helps you realize, oh, this is not what's actually happening. For example, there was this one sit where I was looking at my feet. So I was just sitting cross-legged and I was looking at my toes and my feet, and they were perfectly uh, shaped. It was just like very high resolution. And I remember looking at my nails and there was a light shining on them. And then I suddenly realized, oh, but I'm wearing socks. And my feet are in the shadow. There's no light on my feet. And then just like so stupid. Absolutely no value for personal or meditative development, you know? Or there was this other one of the first ones that happened for me. I was in my bed and I had a laptop in front of me. And I remember seeing the whole room. Everything looked exactly the way it looked. It was dimmed, and there was a video game on the laptop. And it was like a flying vehicle, like a flying car. And I remember I was tracking this car, and as the car was moving, my whole body and like really my kind of system of balance and like my whole body was feeling sensations of moving with this. And I was like kind of flowing through the game with this car. And then I remember realizing, oh, but this is not how you play video games on a laptop. Like it's not this immersive. And then I realized, oh, I'm actually having an episode. I'm just having a vision. And then I realized, okay, what'll happen if I open my eyes? And then I opened my eyes and I still saw my laptop was not there at all. I didn't go to bed with a laptop. And then I remember that seeing still a vague shape of the laptop with eyes open in the space. And then kind of, okay, figuring out, okay, well, I might as well just continue. It's fun to do this, right? Then I closed my eyes and the game was still there. And I could still kind of flow with the game, but it wasn't that kind of high quality experience. My body was not participating as much, and the visuals were not that perfectly crisp anymore. And yeah, so I just like kind of I saw through the illusion, and then I could no longer bring it up.
That's so good that you could even go back close to it. It's still really amazing. It's great.
Yeah, I think that happened only that one time.
Yeah, because for me, it's always like a dream ending and like the whole thing dissolving and waking up. Well, it's like much for an ordeal.
Yeah, I think it's like that for me as well most of the time.
Yeah, these new visions definitely felt like they had a sense of humor at times. Like one of mine was I was I just kind of found myself in this room. It kind of felt like a bedroom. I had like windows into a corridor, and I was like sitting in a kind of. I just had like a screen of like some sort of iPad or tablet or something, and it was just like a really vivid, detailed screen with all of these different icons of pictures of just like these like tantalizing adverts trying to draw me in. And there was the audio. I could hear like almost like a radio of someone like just talking and like asking me to subscribe to their subscriptions. It's some advert, and I'm just there like, and just kind of I could even like feeling like the emotional like triggering of like the advertisements I was looking at and scrolling. So it's just yeah, like all these different sensory modalities, all super immersive. And then I was worried that someone was going to walk past and see me like wasting my time. Like, oh, I'm meant to be on retreat, and someone's going to see me. It's just like, and then I think I went to my bed. The bed. It wasn't really a room that I know. And then there was some safety goggles which I own, like I own, but they were just here with the bed. And no, I took them all. I'm like, oh, I'm wearing safety goggles. With put them. Oh, I'm accidentally wearing 3 pairs. Why are there 3 pairs here now? And pick up, oh, there's four. There's four. Oh, there's five. Oh, there's. Oh, okay, this is three. Okay, and just like dissolve and just sort of. Then I guess I can't remember exactly what happened, but I would put money on just being deeply confused for a short while.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, but then on the other hand, there were some more useful experiences at the retreat. Would you like to talk about some of the highlights and
Yeah,
most interesting takeaways?
sure. Yeah, like because it's like a visionary psychedelic practice. That's the reputation. It's kind of feel necessary to talk about that stuff because it's it happens. But yeah, the bits that I actually treasured most was like yeah towards the end, deliberately working with the three characteristics quite a lot, and then I think a highlight in terms of insight was maybe the last few days. There was just like one of the sits in the evening when I'm just like just watching my experience, and then there's myself is just like I'm watching it with the same kind of way that I would watch a lava lamp or just like one of those plasma domes or something kind of weird and engaging, but it's just like just happening. I can't control it. It's just doing its own thing, and the whole experience just like fluxing by itself. And that felt very profound. So I'm really grateful to have had some moments like that. And then in order to reach that stage, yeah, like a lot of the time I was working working with energetics, decongesting all my chakras and energetic system, finding all these blockages and undoing them. And just sort of seeing over the course of the retreat, just the boundless open space opening up. And, there's always some tension I'm still kind of working through, but just having this open space, just like this glorious, like, oh my God, I can just hear people like over there happening in space. And oh my God, it's just the most blissful, just amazing thing ever. Just like trying to remember what that felt like. It's just, I think it was experiences like that where I was immediately signed up to do another ficus and retreat in 2 months' time. Like, okay, let's go. Let's do it again.
And how would you compare that to other retreats?
You mean like non-ficus retreats?
If you could make a comparison, if you even think it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess the things that the insight territory I just described, all of that's possible on non-fire casino retreat. I think the ability to just get energy very, very high just through fire casino alone, it's very, very energizing. Like that's something I found on both retreats is that the depth of concentration I can reach through fire casino is so much more than I've ever found through some other way. Like even if I'm not continuously working with the visuals, I might do like 3 or 4 refreshes on the flame and then just switch to mantra or then just switch to the body or just switch to some Michael Taft style non-dual thing, or it's just using that as like a gateway practice, I think is a reason why now my visualization capacity is pretty strong, whereas it used to be just middling to the average a week or whatever. Like the mantras now get like incredibly interesting and all the different sensory modalities coupling, all this interesting stuff that I never got through it without doing those things, without doing fikes.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
Mm-hmm.
the distinction that would make.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that also scans for me. So actually, since I started doing Fire Casino, or I'm not sure if I'm the right person to talk about that because from from the beginning, my retreats have been turning into what I later learned is the Fire Casino territory. So I think I'm just that kind of practitioner. So for me, any kind of practice would ultimately lead to that. But Fire Casino does that more reliably, faster, produces stronger effects. So yeah, in that sense, I'm not even, I think earlier I used to say that even a beginner can do Fire Casino. And I think that even a beginner would get something out of it. But I think it's so powerful that I'm not sure if I would recommend it as the first retreat for somebody who has not done years of meditation or somebody who does not have a sense of their own progress.
Or even just basic Dharma kind of Buddhist frameworks, I think are very important because particularly if you're going to be shifting, like having like the whole sense of the environment suddenly malleable, or the sense of self energized and malleable, and the ability to intend to change things in the seemingly external world, like you need some basic frameworks to deal with that, otherwise you might just go crazy.
Yeah. I think also something like an ability to get yourself out of a bad trip, as well.
Yeah.
Also the ability to assess whether you're going hard or whether you're not going hard enough. Just like that's something that you develop through experience. And I would say that there are some prerequisites for doing Far Casino safely, but also for doing it well in terms of the effects that you might want to get out of it. Do you want to talk about our energy practices? So we hinted that earlier. Do you want to continue talking about that?
Yeah, well, you were leading the sessions every single day, so we did at least maybe like an hour, which for 3 weeks, an hour a day of this kind of practice. It was just at the beginning, it was like it could just felt like an increase in energy. It was like, oh great, I have more energy to use for practice. Oh, great. But then by the end, it was just like my whole sense of self for maybe 10 to 20 seconds is just like vibrating and melting into like a diffuse soup, and then just like, oh, I'm just in this boundless space. My head is melted. It was just really, really strong stuff. So that was, kind of amazing. So you were
Many
leading us.
sessions that went on for 2 hours or more. I think we just all completely lost track of time during
Since you were
those
leading the
sessions.
session, maybe you want to give it a flavor of the trajectory since you're the most qualified.
Yeah, so this is something that I did on all of my previous retreats, but I never did it so consistently. I never did it every day. On some days I would do a couple of hours, and on some days I would just not do it at all, or I would do just breath work, or yeah, just like some elements. And on this retreat, I didn't really originally intend to do it every day necessarily, but I think on the first day I said, hey, I'm gonna do this tomorrow or so, and whoever wants to join can join me. And then people kept showing up, so I kind of had to commit.
Now, I remember, sorry to call you out on this. I remember a moment where
Please.
it was definitely me and you. And I think you asked me, it was like, I think the first session or the first two sessions went really well. And maybe you said something like, hey, shall we do this every day? Or do you want to do this I'm sure you both like agreed to every day to.
Yeah, but like on the first day of the retreat, I didn't plan to
Yeah.
guide this practice for 20 days. I just said, hey, I'm going to try this, or like, I'm going to do this, and whoever wants to join. But then it turned out to be pretty amazing. Yeah, and it was a mix of body movements. Yeah, kind of moving through the energy channels. So from the root all the way up to the crown, with each exercise, with each movement, activating a particular energy center. Also bringing awareness on the central channel, to the sides as well, kind of activating the whole body. We did also a form of breath work that's most similar to vase breathing, mm, like related to the Tumon practice, but I would not really say that this was a fully canonical Tumo breathing, although I never received a very elaborate Tumo training, but I know a little bit about the practice. And so movement, awareness of the energy, uh, breathing, and towards the end, we also combine some non-dual aspects with it. So expanding through the feelings of energy, expanding outwards, kind of dissolving all boundaries, dissolving the feeling of the self, as well as you mentioned. And we also incorporated some aspects of deity yoga. So we were working with a spiritual benefactor, and we were also kind of invoking their divine qualities, divine love, divine compassion to infuse into our being and to merge with that. So I would say that in a nutshell, that's what we did across those 20 days, one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really, for me at least, I find my energetic system is like really kind of open and spacious, kind of below heart, neck, and so on, and then gets more and more tight and constricted. So it's like the way that the system, we were focusing on the root chakra first, moving up in this sequentially up to the crown. And so just doing that every single day, it would feel like the energy working its way further and further, or each chakra, for lack of a better word, opened more and more each day. Or like the first time I felt energy just like actually moving and feeling the space at the top, I was like, oh my God, I've literally never felt that before. And then by the end, it was like this whole channel that opened up all the way around the head, and I'm exploring the way that these different kind of regions of the energetic system connect together. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to know if this happens, but with this system that I'm like mapping actually lines up with anyone else's experience. But at least for me, it's fairly consistent. So there's some at least idiosyncratic realness to it. So
I mean, maybe this is a moment to say if you have had similar experiences or if you could explain some of what we're talking about, please write in the comments. And also, you can let us know if there would be an interest in talking more about these topics on the channel. We might spend a bit more time doing that then.
that's true, because it strikes me at this point that there's so much stuff that we just don't have time to speak about today. But it's just there's so rich. There's like so many different aspects of the whole experience. But it's just trying to give a little like a bookmark to each one in a conversation. Really, all we can hope to achieve.
Yeah, it's incredible. 20 days on a retreat is a lot, but it's really incredible how much happens in those 20 days. It really feels like much longer. For me, I remember it felt like when I left the retreat, I felt like coming back home after maybe 3 months and not just 1 month of being away. Yeah, for me, but so regarding the sessions, the energy sessions, it was striking how well adopted it was. Also, how easy it became for me to guide it because my own experience was so vivid and so easy to convert into guidance. I also had this feeling of almost, I think the first word that comes to mind is channeling. That there were also moments when I would feel like words just come to me and I just articulate them, or like they articulate themselves. So I'm just kind of sitting on the cushion, feeling this experience, and the words just find themselves. And it was really, I felt incredibly grateful for the resonance. And we even talked about transmission during the retreat that there was in the group, that people really had a very strong experience of kind of getting the skill of feeling and manipulating the energy in their bodies. which I really was humbled by, that I could partake in this experience and that I could even facilitate that experience for others. This was really incredible. So we've been talking actually a lot about energy, and do you maybe want to take a moment to define what we experience and what we mean by energy here and why that might be useful for practice?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because for me, energy is almost, it's like a quality that exists within all sensory phenomena. So it's not like a special kind of experience where you're getting struck by lightning or there's a bright light, or, you know, those aren't very energetic experiences, but that's not necessarily what we mean by energy, because energy would be found in all body sensations. But as energy increases, the sensation might become more vivid, it might stand out more, it might be just literally move more, or as a visual experience gets more energy, it might become brighter. As an auditory experience, the sound will become louder. So it's kind of like a meta property that you could assign to all things. So it's like,
I mean, also in speech acoustics or in sound acoustics, there is a measurement of intensity and there is a measurement of energy. And energy is kind of this forcefulness, this vividness, forcefulness in sound. And I think I like that distinction between intensity and energy, although there are shared properties, there are similarities. And so I would also say that it's not that energy isn't this feeling of lightning or like this very salient feeling of activation in whatever aspect it is, but it is much more than that. And I think you pointed that out quite well. That it's a quality that is observed in every sensation. It's very easily observed in the body, that's very easily observed through the breath, through emotions, but that is ultimately present in all sensory domains.
yeah. And that's why this practice was so helpful, like using breath work and directed attention from the chakra locations, was because you get one region of experience that becomes highly energized in comparison to the other region. And so you go, oh, this is energy. This is where this kind of pouring in. Okay. Oh, it seems to be stuck here. It feels bad. Oh, maybe, and then you can start to work with it and play with this kind of new thing. And like maybe it highlights the regions that are resisting the energy, resistance. So it kind of opens up this whole doorway to like, oh, trying to massage the energy body into this more like cohesive feel. Like the energy body is just like the visceral tingling kind of alive sense in the body. You can kind of work with that. And so then once like in going through this process of opening up the channels and working with this energy is kind of, really loosens up attention from being stuck in any one place. And you can really lead to this more opening out. Like you were saying, we went towards the end of this practice trajectory, and the energy work was more into this like non-dual open awareness, maybe working with deity yoga in this open space. And it was via this doorway of high energy. So it's important.
Yeah, and we also reflected on the 7 factors of awakening and how this practice also gave a more deeper insight into the aspect of energy within that sequence or within that cluster of qualities that one might want to cultivate in order to meditate well or in order to have success in meditation.
For sure. Yeah, because like the 7 factors of awakening, like for me, more and more I'm working with them. It seems to be, I found them to be incredibly helpful. So like for the purpose of this conversation, maybe I was mentioning the first few, but so we need mindfulness at the foundation of all of the 7 factors, and analysis of qualities, the second one, or maybe investigation, another translation of the second one. So you have mindfulness, investigation, and that brings forth energy, the 3. And so it's right up there in the third like prime position in the 7 factors. So in order to access any of the following factors like tranquility, concentration, equanimity, all that good stuff, we kind of need to get energy going. Like we can't run directly for equanimity as some traditions might recommend. So getting mindfulness really well, really paying close attention to experience, whatever way we're second factor, and then energy. It's kind of right in there in the core of the Buddhist teachings that we need to be working with this stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, for my whole meditative path so far, energy has been probably the most decisive factor for my fast development. And I think it's just something that I'm naturally good at, and that's why I didn't pay so much attention to it. But over time, I learned that getting the strong, also tying into the story of the 7 factors or the sequence of the 7 factors, that getting the strong energy going early on in the practice at the right time of the practice, also managing it well so that it doesn't overshoot, that it doesn't become agitated, but kind of like strong, stable energy will actually enable, just feed into or transform into the subsequent factors, and will actually transform into the kind of refined state of mind and refined quality of sensations that are required for subsequent practices. And for me, if that aspect of energy is not present, then even if I might get to something further, it will not be as impactful and it will not be as fruitful, or the effects of subsequent stages will not be as strong.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of developing 7 factors, like a good strategy is to strengthen and then balance. If you don't strengthen the factors and they're quite low and you just balance them, they just stay low. So if you get mindfulness really strong, that allows you to investigate really well, get energy going really, really well. And then you go, oh my God, that's so much energy. Oh my God. Then you need to get tranquility up to balance it. And then maybe you get too sleepy. So then you need energy higher again. So it's like balancing these different factors in a really dynamic way, depending on your situation. Like maybe not everyone needs to go through this doorway of, like I said earlier, getting energy so high that everything just melts in this kind of crazy, like a psychedelic level kind of melting experience. Maybe not everyone needs to do that. It's possible. But maybe you do. You need to like feel out these things, find out how much do I actually need? Am I blocked in this way? How high can it go? Is it too high now? Can it go more? Is it too high now? Okay, you're like, we don't even know the limits when we start out. So you just need to play with them to find out.
Yeah, I would argue that to become an advanced practitioner, one has to find the limits of the practice, or one should try to find the limits of the practice safely, of course. And once you have done it, you might realize that it wasn't necessary to do exactly that to become an advanced practitioner. But the reality is that it allows you to perceive directly the rich landscape of the practice, and it really deepens both the experience and the skill, but also kind of the knowledge of the territory. It really helps to do a deep dive into a practice, and I really appreciate that we did that with energy together on this retreat. I also really appreciated the exchanges and the stories, and just the experience of being there together.
Such a great summary. I feel like I'm going to find it hard to follow such sentiments because that's really like I think a great take-home message is the Fire Kasina retreat and these associated practices for 3 weeks really is a deep dive. And so for people who want to go really deep and learn these lessons, either the easy way or the hard way, however they appear in practice, we don't usually get to choose, but this is a great practice for those people. And if you're not ready for such a deep dive, then choose something else.
Maybe then to add something about the meaning, or the contribution of the group in a retreat like that. So besides the really conducive effects of the group that we had during the energy sessions, we also noticed that it was really helpful to have the group exchanges regularly for people to have really deep transformational experiences. So there were a few kind of profound shifts in uh, how people perceive reality or how they perceive themselves. And I think it was really helpful to kind of day after day or meal after meal share some micro or macro tips for what to do next and how to try to get to the next level and how to just like nudge yourself a bit more to get there. So yeah, I think that was also one of the big highlights of the retreat for me.
Yeah, I remember particularly towards the end when there's this, the transformations in the air, everyone knows that it's now possible. There's like these big things happening. And then I remember just sitting in the meditation hall at the end and just have this real sense of, because we've been talking about it at meal times, of just like the sense of this mutual feeling of support and being there for each other. So then when we went into the meditation together at the end, then I just knew that that's what we were all doing. I was just like giving metta to people as they arrive. I'm like, oh yeah, great, they're here now. They're sitting there. I know they're sitting there. Nice. I'm going to send metta to them in their place. And then as we were sharing, like the next day, then we're sharing stories, and they were all doing the same thing. So we were just all metta to each other in the hall. So that was really good.
Yeah, and I think somebody said that it appeared that the room was glowing. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's something that we also all felt towards the end of the retreat, that there was like this really strong support that felt like meta, like just bouncing between everybody.
So important, because we definitely had a bunch of shares as well, like earlier in the retreat, where someone would be like, oh, and I just, yesterday I just did metta for everyone, and I went through everyone and just had metta, and which I also did. I'm like thinking, like sometime in the first week, I was like, wait, why am I annoyed by this person? I should be, I need to deal with that's not, I shouldn't be annoyed by people. I need to deal with that. And then just like went through and like imagining everyone and fixing like these like subtle aversion and tension that they crept in. It's such important stuff. And I think for any group retreat where you have any level of interpersonal, well, no, any group retreat, like it's just extending that level of like metta and kindness to everyone is, even, if someone's coughing in the meditation hall, you're not getting annoyed. You're like, oh no, maybe they're ill. I hope they're okay. You're not like, oh, be quiet. It's really different mental states. It's important to know what you're through.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think that we also noticed that there was a great deal of kind of or how would you say it, like non-intentional or interpersonal exchange or synchronicity or synchronization, that it happened multiple times that people had oddly similar experiences or something that might even be interpreted as telepathy. Or I remember also in the last days, we also had an experience of feeling the body of the other person, feeling the meditation of the other person. So I think these were really beautiful experiences because we had a wonderful safe space and there was really friendly atmosphere going on between everybody. But that similar container or that similar effect of Fire Casino might play out differently in a different group. So that's why I think it's really important to choose the people you meditate with really carefully, so that you could benefit from the shared transpersonal experience rather than finding ways to cope with the bleed through of a person with whom you might not get along so well.
Yeah, that was really, really well put for sure. Because that was what we found on previous retreats. It was where this interpersonal connection was. If it goes awry, then it can go really, really awry. So that's definitely worth considering. Like, it's hard to know in advance what's going to happen, obviously, but we just have to do our best to, choose people.
Yeah, because with such a deep practice, you can learn a lot from other people, definitely. But you can also receive, like in a very intuitive, non-verbal, embodied way, just receive quality skills of another person just by sitting in the same room. I think this is also what people experience in many other meditation retreats, that you notice that even though you're sitting silently with a person that you've never seen before, after a week you somehow have a feeling like you know them really well, like you know their subtle emotional reactions, their subtle body movements. And especially in a retreat where you go really deep and you even talk to people and you even maybe choose to do some shared practices, this effect can be even stronger.
Yeah, particularly, if I Kasina are in close proximity, because it is known for magical practice and deliberate cultivation of psychic powers, and we don't there was some really good advice from Daniel, you don't necessarily want to be doing like experimenting with magical effects and psychic powers with people who you don't actually really vibe with on a deep level, for that exact reason. That it was a good phrase that he brought up with this like full was it like full chakra transmission or something? Like even if you're trying to transmit one thing, then you're going to get the whole person, like a whole thing happening. So I think that that's going to be happening in the background to some degree all the time, and then if you're doing it intentionally, it's a lot stronger.
I would give an example. For example, with one of the practitioners, I was trying to let him take on my ability to meditate by trying to somehow meditate inside of him, or like kind of to mirror each other. And what I noticed when I got home is that I could spontaneously write poetry, which I couldn't do before.
What?
So
Crazy.
I think it's always a two-way exchange. And I'm obviously really grateful for having gained that skill, but it's not a skill that I had before this retreat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And shall we give a few highlights, a few like psychedelic gems before we close off?
Yeah, why not? We can finish on a bang, and then
Yeah, exactly.
somewhat cheesy. Like, comment below if you want to talk about this on a future video.
And please become a subscriber, because we need to have 1,000 subscribers minimum to be able to switch off the monetization option so that you can meditate without ads. So share with your family, share with your friends, share with whoever you think would be interested in our content. We just need to reach 1,000 subscribers. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's so we can turn off the ads, not so we can make money. We want to turn them off.
Yeah, we literally do not want to make money with this. We just want to make it more comfortable for you. All right, so now that we're done with our own sponsorship. So, yeah, I remember like talking about shifts in worldviews. I remember that there were a couple of people who could see for the first time their body glowing, or like their hands glowing in the dark, and just being shocked by that.
No, yeah, I got that as well. It was like the ability, it was like seeing like a subtle shift in the static behind the eyes as moving the hands in the dark. That was, for me, I couldn't see my literal hand glowing, but I could see some effects on the visual screen of the hand. I was like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, and that's something you could practice. I practiced that skill to a substantial degree. So in the end, there were times when I could see my body in full darkness, in pretty high resolution, just not in the color of my skin. The color was rather greenish, bluish, kind of bioluminescence, but still the granularity was really high. And I could also see other people's bodies, and in a way that it's not scripted by myself. So we also try to do some experimental design to verify that we're not imagining seeing other people. Do you have another gem?
Yeah, the experimental theme triggered by the interpersonal energetic transmission was particularly wild. So we would choose a location on the body of another person. Yeah, only with like 1 of 3 or 4 locations, just the kind of main channel. And then like close our eyes, sitting 1 or 2 meters, make a push with the energy, like feeling all the energy in the hands, make a push. And then most of the time they would A, feel something, and B, correctly say the location energy was sent to. And it was either it just wouldn't work at all, or it would happen kind of perfectly, never usually like a middle ground. And it was so consistent that I was pretty convinced quite quickly that it was just real. Just I was just like, oh, this just seems to work. Oh my god, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we had those also attempts of group lucid dreaming
That's true.
where some of the people actually managed to be. So the agreement was that we would show up in the living room together to find a door that would take us to the living room, and a few people actually managed to get there and to even find other people and try to wake them up, but we didn't manage to all wake up and meet in the living room.
No, the fact that someone who'd never lucid dreamed really before, just intended to, and on their first attempt got there
Immediately.
I think they even like arrived in the wrong place and drew a door and went through the door into the room. It was a really complicated series of intention that I got them all. And so cool.
Yeah.
Then we've got to do it's so one participant deliberately sent an image of a rose to the mind of another participant, and he immediately recognized. He didn't see it in his mind's eye, but he just kind of came to him and he was like, "Oh, it's a flower." And so there wasn't like, and he just immediately, neither of them had ever tried it before, and it just worked just like that. And then when I wasn't there for that, but I was there for the recounting of the story of the meal later. He was telling the story, how it happened, how mind-blowing it was. And while he was telling the story, someone else at the table received the image of the rose, and they were just like, "Oh, we've got this picture of a rose, I don't know, whatever." And then the story finished and said, "Oh, and the image I sent was a rose." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I just received that without knowing." And so then he just told us all at the dinner table after it happened. So that was probably the craziest one that I've telling everyone about. But
Yeah. I mean, we're either losing viewers or gaining viewers here.
yeah,
Or both.
Well, we put it right at the end. So for those who are still listening, that can is appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say also that there were some really deep experiences of jhanas and really deep inside territory, profound transformative experiences. Yeah, also a few challenging experiences. I don't think that we should sugarcoat the whole retreat. I think it's also fair to, again, give a warning about Fire Kasina definitely being a practice that requires skill and, careful maneuvering.
That's true. Yeah, because on both ends of the spectrum, one participant who on one day was like slowly like merging with this sense of the murk and this kind of third person mist, realizing that the mist was looking at them, then the whole thing collapses, and the this whole like breakthrough is just amazing. And then someone else on the retreat who left early because the sense of energy was preventing them from sleeping. They were really worried about the kind of weird effects and just really anxious and just not really enjoying the whole thing. But yeah, there's some people, literally left early, so hang at both ends.
All right, so maybe we leave it there for now. I really enjoyed the conversation and the chance to remember the amazing retreat. And yeah, I guess you and I will be doing this again, maybe just the two of us, or maybe with some more people in a couple of months after we finish another one of these retreats. So yeah, please feel free to comment any impressions or questions that you might have about the practice, or if you would like us to do more of conversations like this. Ed, do you have anything to add for the end?
Yeah. Thanks for the wonderful conversation. It's been really fun. Hopefully hopefully the internet people also enjoy it and find it helpful. So hopefully it's the beginning of a longer discussion, both between us and future videos and between the internet people who we have not yet met, but hopefully they can comment.
If you're very welcome to join our regular Tuesday sessions. So
That'd be
you
great.
can always find the description about our Sangha and how we practice in the description.
Yeah,
So,
general. Perfect.
yeah, we meditate live every Tuesday at 8 Central European time. And these sessions don't require strong commitment. You can join whenever you feel like, as much as you feel like. They're
It's all
free.
very new. Thanks. Wow.
You're of course welcome to donate. We welcome donations, but we don't charge for the session, so there's no commitment in that respect as well. And either, and yeah, we just like to practice, and we're quite friendly. Okay, thank you for listening. Thanks again, Ed, and until next time.